All right, strap in, everybody. We're going deep on this one. My big TOE, MBT for short, a theory of everything.
Yeah.
Causing a bit of a stir, you know. You've heard of Einstein, right?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, like, the whole universe.
Right.
Quantum mechanics, relativity, all that. Well, MBT.
It takes it up a notch.
Takes it up a notch?
MBT doesn't just stop at the objective world, the science. It goes into, like, the subjective, our minds, you know.
Consciousness.
Consciousness, the feeling of being. It tries to explain it all. Everything.
How the universe works.
Why you might feel lost.
Or completely content.
Right.
That's ambitious, right, for any theory.
It is.
So we're going to the source, an interview with Tom Campbell, the physicist behind MBT.
Okay.
And get this, he's also spent years exploring consciousness.
Interesting. Not your typical physicist.
Not your typical physicist.
No. That's key, though, that dual perspective.
I think so, too.
It bridges that gap, you know, between hard science and what we experience. That's a big gap a lot of the time in science.
Yeah. Huge. Okay, let's break it down. MBT says, at its core, that reality
Information.
is information, not material.
Yeah.
You'd think everything's made of, well, stuff. But what if that stuff, it's all just information?
Like a code underneath.
Like a code.
Yeah.
Underlying our reality.
Like, think about the pixels on your screen.
Yeah.
They make the picture, but they're just data information shown a certain way.
Right, right.
MBT says that's how reality works. Information first, then the physical world comes out of that.
But how does information actually make, you know, reality? What's the process?
This is where MBT gets exciting. It starts with two assumptions. Just two.
Okay.
One, consciousness exists.
I think we're both conscious right now, so.
Right. Hard to argue with that one.
What's number two?
Evolution.
Okay.
That simple but powerful thing.
Yeah.
Try, fail, learn, adapt, do it again.
Yeah.
MBT says consciousness itself evolves.
Okay.
And through that evolution, it shapes the information that builds our reality.
So not just like biological evolution.
No, broader than that. Evolution of consciousness.
Okay.
Remember how Einstein was all about explaining the most with the least?
Yeah.
That's MBT in a nutshell.
Elegant. Okay. Starting to piece it together. But how did Campbell, the physicist, get into consciousness?
So he tells this story, right? Grad school. Learning to meditate. Not for, like, spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Just to get by on less sleep.
Classic grad school move.
Totally.
Did it work? Less sleep?
Maybe. But he found something way more important. He could debug code while meditating. Seeing errors, like, as red lines.
Wow.
Blew his mind. As a physicist, he was trained to only believe in things you can measure.
That's a big jump from the usual science view, right? Was it just a one-time thing? Or did it change his path?
It changed everything. This challenged the core idea that everything can be explained by physical processes.
Materialism?
Right. It pointed to something beyond what we normally see or measure.
So did he drop physics, become like a full-time meditator?
Not quite. He ended up in the Monroe Institute, founded by Bob Monroe, a pioneer in out-of-body experiences.
Out-of-body experiences, okay.
Might sound a bit out there, but Campbell went in with his scientist hat on.
So what were they researching there at Monroe?
They were looking for proof, repeatable, solid proof of consciousness outside the body.
Right.
In one experiment, Campbell and a colleague, in separate rooms, completely isolated, they both had out-of-body experiences.
At the same time?
At the same time, describing the same things, answering each other's questions, with no way to communicate normally.
That's wild. Did that convince other scientists?
It didn't fit neatly into the usual science boxes.
Right, right.
But it raises huge questions about consciousness. Can it go beyond the physical limits? Does it have to be stuck in the brain?
So you've got Campbell, this physicist, spending years, decades even, researching consciousness while still doing his physics work.
That's dedication.
That's a lot to juggle.
It's during this time that he has a breakthrough moment, a big one. He realized consciousness wasn't just a side effect of the brain. It was fundamental.
Right.
Physics, the material world, it came from consciousness, not the other way around.
Whoa. That's like saying the universe is a thought.
Right.
Or like a giant simulation.
Exactly. It turns everything on its head.
How did his physics background fit into this?
This is where it gets even more mind-blowing. He realized that the same ideas driving consciousness could explain quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics.
The area that's been stumping physicists forever.
Right, right. So he's connecting consciousness with, like, the biggest mysteries in physics.
Yeah. Think of the double slit experiment,
Yeah.
one of the most famous and confusing in quantum mechanics.
Okay.
It shows that particles, they act like waves when you don't look,
Okay.
but like particles when you do.
Okay.
It's like watching them, being conscious of them, changes them.
That's where I get a headache trying to figure that out.
It's a lot,
Yeah,
but super interesting.
it is.
And we're just getting started with MBT.
Yeah, I think we need to go way deeper to even scratch the surface here.
We do.
But before we do, let's just take a breath and let all this sink in. We've got a lot more to uncover.
Definitely.
All right, we're back, diving deeper into my big toey. And one thing that's been bugging me is how MBT tackles those big paradoxes, the ones that have stumped physicists forever. Like, what started the Big Bang?
Yeah, the Big Bang. It's like the foundation of cosmology, but it leaves you hanging with that question. What caused it?
Right. It's like, okay, the universe expanded from the super hot, dense state, but where did that come from?
Yeah, and what came first? The chicken or the egg?
Exactly.
MBT offers a solution. The universe came from, get this, a fluctuation in consciousness, like a thought, popping up from this huge field of awareness. It's different,
It's different.
but it answers that origin question.
So consciousness isn't just a product of the universe.
Nope.
It's the source
It is.
that flips everything we think we know. What does that mean for time and space, then? Those are pretty basic concepts, right?
Things get really wild here.
Yeah.
If reality is information and consciousness is the foundation, then maybe our idea of time, moving in a straight line, that's just one way to experience it.
Okay.
Maybe we can access different points in time or even parallel realities.
Hold on, parallel realities,
Yeah.
like different timelines based on our choices. Are we getting into sci-fi territory here?
Not really. MBT suggests that our choices, what we want, it affects the information that shapes our reality.
Okay.
Every decision could create a new reality branch, a new thread in the universe.
My brain's starting to hurt a little bit, but it does kind of connect with that double slit experiment, where just observing changes how those particles act.
Right.
Like we're turning possibilities into reality just by looking.
Exactly. MBT says consciousness isn't just sitting back and watching, it's actively shaping reality. We have more power than we think.
But if it's all like a big virtual reality, does that mean free will is just an illusion? Are we like puppets just following a script?
MBT dives into that whole free will versus determinism debate. It says we do have free will, but within the rules of the system we're in. Like choices in a video game.
Yeah, I get that.
You can control your character, but you can't suddenly break the game's rules.
So our choices count, but within certain limits, like physical limits or something more like, I don't know, subtle.
More about the system's built-in rules, the code behind this information reality. Could be things like the law of attraction,
Okay.
where your thoughts, what you believe, they attract similar experiences.
So thinking positive isn't just like a feel-good thing.
No,
It actually changes the information building our reality.
from an MBT view, yes.
Our thoughts have real power.
They do. They're not just in your head, they're information interacting with everything else.
Mm.
Focus on good vibes. You'll get more good vibes experiences.
So we're all making our own reality even if we don't realize it.
Yeah,
That's a lot of pressure.
it is. MBT says, own your experiences. You have more control than you think. It's not about blaming yourself for everything.
Right, right.
It's understanding that we're all co-creating in this system.
If it all boils down to information and consciousness, what about the physical world? All this stuff around us.
MBT doesn't say the physical world isn't real.
Okay.
It says it's a manifestation of information, a place for our consciousness to have experiences, to evolve. Like the hardware of a computer.
Okay, I see.
Important. But it's the software that makes it do cool stuff.
So our bodies, the hardware, consciousness, the software.
That's it. The physical world is like a gym for our consciousness to learn and grow.
To evolve towards what, though? Does MBT say anything about the purpose of it all?
Here's where MBT gets philosophical.
Okay.
It says consciousness is aiming for understanding, love, compassion. It's about letting go of ego and realizing we're all connected.
That sounds a lot like what many spiritual traditions teach.
Yeah.
Like we're all on a journey to be better, more loving beings.
Exactly. And that journey, it doesn't have to stop with our physical lives.
Yeah.
MBT has some interesting things to say about death and what comes next.
Okay, the afterlife. What happens when we die in this virtual reality? Do we just shut down? Or is there something more?
MBT says death isn't the end. It's a transition to a different reality level.
Okay.
like logging out of one virtual world and into another.
So we don't just disappear, our consciousness keeps going somewhere.
That's the idea. This somewhere could be pure information, pure consciousness, not physical.
Hard to picture, existing without a body.
It is. But MBT says it's possible.
But what about who we are, our individual selves? Do we stay us after death? Or do we merge into some kind of, like, hive mind?
MBT suggests we keep our sense of self, at least at first.
Okay.
But it also says merging with other consciousnesses or even with the whole system is possible.
So we could be both individual and part of a collective. What decides that?
It might depend on how evolved our consciousness is. The more we grow in love and understanding, the more we might connect with others and the whole consciousness system.
That's a really different view of the afterlife. Not an ending, but like moving up a level, continuing to learn.
It is. It's based on the idea that consciousness is the real foundation. Evolution keeps going, even after the physical realm.
We've covered some heavy stuff today. The universe's beginning, death, what comes after. I need a minute to digest all this.
It's a lot to take in. And we're just scratching the surface of MBT.
I feel like we need to keep going.
There's so much more to explore. Maybe we can dig in even deeper in part 3.
We started with the Big Bang, went through like life after death, and now I'm just thinking about how massive my big toe is. It's not just like science, it's how to understand reality itself.
Yeah.
Everything, the physical universe, love, purpose, even suffering.
MBT definitely makes you rethink some big assumptions.
It does.
Who are we? Why are we here? If we're all part of this bigger consciousness thing, evolving to understand more, to love more, what does that mean for how we actually live?
That's a big question. Should we just focus on like personal enlightenment then, or is there something more?
MBT says our choices, what we do, it matters. Not just for us, but for the whole system evolving.
Yeah.
It's not about being selfish. It's realizing we're all connected. Yeah. And helping consciousness grow as a whole. Every nice thing you do, every real connection you make, it spreads out and affects everything.
So it's kind of like the spiritual teachings about being one, but MBT gives it that scientific, logical backbone.
Exactly. Does it say how we can help this whole evolution thing?
Does it?
Being compassionate, empathetic, forgiving, those become super important.
Okay.
Not just because they're good things, but because MBT sees them as crucial for how consciousness itself grows. It's like there's a deeper reason for these qualities beyond just being nice.
So being a good person, it's not just following rules. It's more like aligning yourself with how everything's evolving.
That's a great way to put it. It changes how we see purpose, not just our own goals, but being part of this bigger story of growth and understanding. But that brings up another question. If it's all part of this plan, why is there so much pain? So much hardship?
Yeah, the problem is suffering. That's been around as long as humans have, right?
It has.
If there's a big plan, why is there so much suffering? Does MBT just ignore that?
Not at all. MBT says suffering pushes us to grow.
Okay.
It's a part of evolution, even if it's a tough part.
Like those hard levels in video games.
Exactly.
They're not there to punish you, but to make you better.
To level up.
Yeah.
But it's hard to see it that way when you're the one hurting.
Yeah.
MBT says even when it's tough, remember, there's a chance to learn and change. It's not pretending the pain isn't there. It's seeing that it can make your consciousness stronger, make you understand more.
So don't run from suffering, learn from it. Get stronger, wiser. That takes a lot of guts, a lot of faith.
It does. It's about seeing the bigger picture. We're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Right. But that brings us back to free will. If there's this big evolution happening, do we really choose? Or are we just along for the ride?
Like a paradox, right? We're connected, evolution's happening, but we still make choices that shape our lives. How does MBT make sense of that?
Yeah, that is.
It says, yes, there's free will and determinism. We have choices, but they're made within the system's rules. Like being in a river.
Okay.
You can steer your boat, go against the current, even try to stay still. But that current, it's going to affect you no matter what.
So it's about finding that balance between what we want and how everything's evolving.
Exactly. The more we line up with the flow, the easier, the better the journey is. It's knowing how the currents work, what forces are at play, and choosing what helps us grow, both individually and as part of the whole thing.
MBT, it's like, it's asking us to zoom out, to see we're not just alone, but part of this huge system, all connected. Makes you feel small, but powerful too.
It does. MBT isn't just a theory, it's a call to action. It's like, remember, you're part of something way bigger, and what you do matters. Live with purpose, with compassion, with a sense of wonder.
We've covered some deep stuff today, stuff that makes you rethink your place in the universe, what it all means.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive into my big toe, I feel a sense of awe and like a responsibility.
It's powerful stuff.
If reality really is this living, changing system, we're not just watching, we're part of it. What stood out to you most from MBT? Where does your own deep dive take you from here?